What was the scariest part of pursuing theater? You sent the questions. I'm spilling the answers. Welcome to Dear Theater Older Sister. I'm Narée, your theater older sister, and I'm here to help you learn all the things I wish I knew when I started musical theater, so you can have an easier time navigating this industry. And this time, you picked the topic. I pulled over 100 questions from my story and live streams, and chose 10 for a rapid-fire Q&A in the first episode of my new series, Dear Theater Older Sister. Let's get into it. How do you get over audition rejection? I love this question because if you pursue musical theater professionally or not, you need to get really familiar with rejection. Personally, I have found that rejection is 99% of the time not your fault. And I cannot stress that enough. 99% of the time, it is not your fault that you do not get cast. Here's what I mean by that. Most of the time, you have no idea what the casting directors are looking for. Maybe you think you're perfect for a role, but the casting team was told that they can only cast people who are 5'3" and below, and you happen to be 5'5". You can't make yourself any shorter. That's physically not possible. So it's an uncontrollable factor that has nothing to do with your preparation and nothing to do with your talent and nothing to do with your personality and everything to do with an external physical factor that is out of your hands. And that's the case for a lot of rejection, I feel. You aced your audition if you showed up in a timely manner, were prepared to be in the room, and you were nice to everybody that you met. Anything that happens outside of those three things is just not in your control. Truthfully, the only time that you don't get cast, and it is your fault, in my opinion, is if you show up and you don't want to be there, you're late, it's clear that you're being rude to people, and you just don't care about the audition, and you're absolutely wildly unprepared. People don't want to work with people like that. But that's really the only time in which you not getting cast is your fault. So just understand that if you get rejected from a show, and it will happen multiple times, most of the time it's not your fault, and you are talented and amazing, and you just have to have the grit to keep going. Any vocal health tips? Absolutely. I remember when I first got started, one of the big things that pretty much every teacher I ever had taught me: don't drink, don't smoke, and don't scream. Which honestly, none of those things can really be good for your voice, but especially if you are a singer, steer clear. Staying hydrated is one of the most underrated vocal health tips that I could possibly give you, especially if you live in a dry area. I live in Las Vegas. It's not enough to take a few sips of water before you audition or perform. You need to be hydrating throughout the day. And sometimes normal water is just not enough on its own. So you need to make sure to get your electrolytes in. This is not sponsored, but I use Liquid IV. They come in these little packets that are really easy to transport, so I can stick them in my bag or my purse and carry them around as I go. Add them to any bottled water and you have an electrolyte drink, which is especially important if you are doing outdoor theater. Stay hydrated. Something else that I take into consideration is that I try not to overuse my voice. When I'm done with a show, I try not to go out to loud environments like parties or bars. It's just a lot of strain on your voice, and that makes it harder to do the show the next day, in my experience. Also, putting myself in positions where I don't need to talk a lot during the day before a show or audition. If I know I have something coming up, I'm probably not going to be talking as much throughout the day. Not full vocal rest, but as close to that as I can get. Where do you find good monologues? I feel like a popular past resource used to be monologue books, and they are sold in age ranges and by gender, so you can look up things like monologue books for girls, monologue books for women in their 20s, monologue books for guys in their 30s. They do exist. And you can also look for them under genres like comedic monologues, dramatic monologues, contemporary, whatever. Me personally, I find my monologues by doing social search, which essentially means I look for all of my stuff on social media. I scour TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, wherever, and I look at other people's performances, and I write down what monologues that they're doing so I can check them out on my own and see if I think they'd be a good fit for me. It's a really great resource because you get to actually see somebody's interpretation of the monologue, and also it's free. And acting is expensive, so... Is a theater degree actually important? Can I tell you a secret? I don't have a theater degree. My major is in business marketing. Just because you don't go to a conservatory program or major in musical theater does not mean that you will not have a successful career as a musical theater performer. I'm proof of that. And the should I do musical theater in college or should I not argument is really based on what you want to get out of college. In my own experience, I tried out a conservatory program when I was in high school and I ended up hating it. There were too many rules and can'ts that I didn't like because I preferred to customize my own schedule and study with people that I personally wanted to study with. So for me personally, customizing my own journey meant not pursuing a musical theater degree. Also, when I went into marketing, people made fun of me for not going into musical theater because they thought that I wouldn't succeed. But what they didn't realize at the time was that eventually musical theater colleges would start offering marketing classes to their students anyways, which I quite literally have a degree in and am a working professional in. Nobody will ever promote you the way that you promote you. So taking marketing classes is always nice because it helps you promote yourself best. Also, what I wanted to get out of college was a broader experience. I knew that I could take dance lessons and vocal classes on the side, but it was harder to find marketing classes in person that weren't offered at a university. Because I love marketing, I pursued that avenue. So again, it really depends on what you're trying to get out of school and how you learn, which is all down to personal preference. Nobody can make that choice for you but you. Favorite musical or song from any musical? That's hard. One of my favorite songs will always be Try to Remember from the Fantastics. It was my very first professional show, and it was directed by my friend and my mentor, Bill Fain, who has since passed. And Bill absolutely loved the Fantastics. It was his favorite show. So listening to that always makes me feel a little bit nostalgic, and it's like keeping a piece of him alive every time I listen to Try to Remember. I do love a Disney musical though. I know it's so basic to say that, but I'm such a big fan of shows that have happy endings and everybody gets together at the end and the power of friendship and all that stuff. So I love a good Disney show. I love a good Disney musical. I love them. I'm sorry, I'm biased. How do I know if I should pursue theater as a career or as a passion? My brutally honest answer is that if you pursue theater professionally, it becomes a very difficult job. You deal with rejection on a daily basis. You have to grow an incredibly thick skin to be able to cope with it. It is physically difficult to do the stuff that we do. Singing, dancing, and acting not only require physical strength from you, but emotional strength. And rehearsal hours are long. So are audition hours. You might be standing in line for a really long time before you even get seen, and you may not even get seen that day. And then you're constantly fighting this imposter syndrome battle of, am I really good enough to do this? Do I have any right being on the stage? What if people don't like me? It's not all glitzy and glamorous like you see it on social media. Sometimes you get injured and you have to continue on with the show, and it hurts physically to do that. It also can mean not having holidays with your loved ones. Oftentimes we are working on all of those fun holidays because people want to come and see a show during the holidays. You're traveling a lot too, which means you also might not see your loved ones for an extended period of time. If you book a tour or you book a show regionally, you're not at home. And it can be really time consuming to always be auditioning because part of your job is always looking for your next job. So the uncertainty can sometimes get to people as well. You have to be willing to adapt to those things and more. But honestly, and this was the case for me, I didn't understand what it took to do theater professionally until I did a professional show. And experience is always going to be the best teacher. So if you're even considering theater as a professional career, go to professional theater's auditions. Book a show that only runs a couple of weeks. That way you're not fully committed for the next year of your life doing something you're not sure you want to do for the rest of your life. Try it out, see how it works for you, and then make that call. At least that's what I would do. Speaking of which, what was my first professional show? I don't know if you caught it earlier, but my first professional show was The Fantastics. I was 16 and I was playing Louisa. And I remember at the time having crazy imposter syndrome about that show, but honestly, for being 16 years old and singing through the beast of a score that is in that show, I have to give myself some credit and grace. I think I did pretty good. It was here in Las Vegas, and honestly, it was a really fun experience for me, but it was very eye-opening because for the first time in my life, I was getting paid to do what I loved. And I realized how hard it was, but I also realized that just because something is hard doesn't mean you can't do it. So I learned to adapt to the things that I found difficult to make them work for me. And I miss that show every single day. I would love to do it again. How do you prep for an audition? I already made a video about things that you should pack when you go to an audition, so you can check that video out on my YouTube playlist, Theater Older Sister Advice. But for a general overview of how to get ready for an audition, so much of it is going to come down to preparation. Already pick out what you're going to wear, how you're going to do your hair and makeup, what you're going to sing. Have your book prepared. Make sure everything is cut correctly with your music. Make sure your music is easy to read and easy to flip inside of your audition binder. Pack your snacks, pack your water, pack your chargers. Grab a pen and a pencil and a highlighter. You never know what you're gonna need. You're basically trying to provide yourself with everything that you're going to need to feel comfortable and ready at that audition. The way that I approach it is trying to think of every possible way that my audition could go. What if they give me something to cold read at the audition? They give me an audition side, for example. I'm probably going to want a pencil to write down some notes and a highlighter to highlight my part. What if I get called back and I'm waiting there a couple of hours between my audition and the callback? I'm probably going to need to charge my phone, and also I'm going to be hungry. So I'm gonna pack my charger and some snacks. I also think it's important to rehearse the piece that you're going to bring into your audition. Personally, I am not the kind of actor that can just walk into the room and go, I'm just gonna wing it. I'm gonna see what comes out of my body. No. I want an idea of how I want my piece to look when I bring it to the casting team, but I don't want it to look overly rehearsed. So I create an outline of choices that I plan to make, both vocal and physical, so that I feel secure in the choices that I'm making and confident in the choices that I'm making when I go audition. How do you even find auditions in the first place? There's a couple of different ways. I personally am represented by an agent, so occasionally I will get auditions through my agent. I also utilize a couple of different audition platforms. Actors Access is a tried and true favorite of mine. It does have a subscription. I personally think it's worth it. I've used it for many years and I've gotten many callbacks from it. Playbill Jobs is another resource. It's free. It's on playbill.com. The only issue that I have with it is that you can't tailor the roles based on your type. So you kind of have to scroll through a whole bunch of stuff and see what fits you and what doesn't. And what I really love about Actors Access is that you can have it send you tailored jobs based on your typecast. So I can create a filter on Actors Access that only sends me jobs that are looking for people that are 5'5", female identifying, Middle Eastern, and have a soprano belt mix. It's super customizable, which is why I think it's really nice. You don't waste time looking through a bunch of jobs that aren't even hiring people like you. And the Casting Connection on Instagram I think is really, really helpful. They also have some sort of like subscription-based something, I think, but they do post auditions every so often, every day on their actual stories, so you can always peek and see who is doing auditions there. And lastly, look at theaters that you think you would like to audition for and sign up for their newsletters. Usually theaters will have an audition page, and you can sign up to be the first to know when they drop their auditions and what their season is going to be, and so on. It's a really direct way to see what they want to see from you and when they want it in by. What was the scariest part of pursuing theater? Honestly, I just feel like I got so many horror stories from people and from television shows being like, oh, people are so catty within musical theater and they're gonna sabotage you and set you up to fail and nobody wants you to succeed. That could not be further away from the truth. The people that I have met in this industry have been so generous and kind. They will freely give you their time and their advice, let you pick their brains if you have a question. They'll help you run over choreography during an audition because they want to help you. And honestly, I feel like it's because we all know how hard it is to make it in this industry. We know that you can feel really alone and isolated if you don't have a good support system around you. So whatever we can do to help you succeed contributes to us having a better community. So even though I thought the scariest part of doing theater would be the people are what I love the most about it. Part 2 is coming soon. But in the meantime, drop your questions in the comments and let me know what you want to see in the next video. See you then.